All right, so we talked about block ciphers, but we only focused on encrypting a single block, right? So now the question is, what happens if I have more blocks? Like if I want to encrypt 10 blocks, how do I do that? And the second question is, what if the data I'm going to encrypt is not a multiple of the block size? For instance, maybe your block size is 64 bits, but you want to encrypt only 3 bits. What are you going to do? Right? So with these questions and motivations, I will show you what are the basic ideas and why they are wrong.
What's the first question?
First question is, since a block cipher works on blocks, how to encrypt plain text longer than a single block? Okay. The second question is, how to encrypt a plain text whose length is not the multiple of the block size? So let's start with the motivation to first question. The easiest thing you can do, use electronic codebook mode of operation called ECB. Idea is simple. Encrypt every plain text block independently, concatenate output blocks to form the ciphertext. So assume that you have a plain text here, but when you divide it into blocks, you end up with n+1 blocks. So you have a single secret key. You have an encryption algorithm here, like present, Clefia, whatever you have. Then you encrypt all of these blocks independently. So you end up with CIs, ciphertext block. Then you concatenate them and obtain the ciphertext. So although this looks very simple, this is the worst thing you can do, and you should never do it. If you are doing this, then most probably a lot of your information leaked already. The problem is that this mode called ECB maps same plain text blocks to same ciphertext blocks. Attacker can capture information using the redundancy of the plain text. So in other words, if P1 and Pn are identical, then C1 and Cn are also identical. So you might say that, okay, assume that my block size is 128 bits, in other words, 16 bytes. So it will be highly unlikely that 16 bytes here and 16 bytes here will be identical, right? You might think that this never happens. Let's see when it happens. So let's look at a BMP file, okay? So this is the logo of our universe. So think about it as a rectangle here, okay? So here we have many white pixels. So actually, if a pixel is represented with 32 bits, 4 consecutive pixels actually turn into a 128-bit block. So every 4 pixels next to each other actually identical. So if you use AES here and encrypt this image, this is what you get. As you can see, I can even read author here. I can see the logo. As you can see, all of the white pixels create a pattern. Okay. So we are claiming that AES is one of the best encryption algorithms, the whole world using it, and now it doesn't provide us any security. Similarly, if you look at the logo of our laboratory, this is, as you know, the resolution is really bad, but even if I encrypt this, I see the patterns here, and I directly understand that this was an image file. You can even read the CIDES here, but it is not important. And good encryption shouldn't leak such an information. So this is why you cannot use ECB. So BMP files are good examples why ECB fails in practice. This problem is not limited to BMP files. You can treat an encrypted file as if it is an image file and print it on the screen as pixels and look at the pattern of the pixels to discover the type of the original file. Very nice exercise, by the way. For instance, executable files can be identified from the ciphertext because operations like memory accesses provide a distinct pattern in the image file. So ECB mode can be used for implementation verification or benchmarking, but ECB mode should never be used for cryptographic purposes. But since nobody knows this, people are still doing it. So when I sometimes ask what cipher, when people talk about encryption, I ask them which cipher they are using, and they tell me that they are using AES. And I ask them which mode of operation they use, and they tell me that they don't know what the mode of operation is. So this means that they're most of the time using this, which is not good. Okay. We will talk about many modes of operations to overcome this problem. Let me show you the easiest solution as a motivation. We can get rid of this by somehow linking plain text blocks to each other. For example, cipher block chaining. So here we are actually adding in another XOR here. So assume that P1 and P2 are identical. but after this XOR operation, they will be different. So after the encryption, C1 and C2 will be different. So it looks like I solved one problem, but I added another one because ECB mode was parallelizable. Now I lost the parallelization because if I want to encrypt P2 before encrypting the previous blocks, I need to perform this XOR operation. But for this, I need to know the value of C1. To know this, I have to encrypt P1. But in order to encrypt P1, I need to know C0 and so on. Okay? So our aim is to have a nice mode of operation which provides, parallelization and so on. Counter mode of operation is one of these, and we will talk about it as a nice solution. Let me move on to our motivation for the second question. So if a plaintext is not a multiple of block size B, we can fill the remaining bits with 0, right? This is the first thing that comes to our minds. We call this kind of filling the remaining part as padding. But if you fill everything with zeros, the last bits of 0 of the last block may belong to the plaintext, or some of them may be from the padding. So this causes an ambiguity. When I receive a ciphertext, when I decrypt it and obtain the plaintext, and if I see 0 bits at the end, I will never be sure if it is from the plaintext or from the padding. Okay, so let me show an example. So you receive a 64-bit block of plaintext. After the decryption, this is what you get. And you realize that the last byte is 0. So there are 8 0 bits here. So question is, how many of them from the padding and how many of them from the original plaintext? Maybe all of them are from padding. Maybe only the last bit is from the padding and so on. So this solution is not good. So we should come up with a good solution for the padding. But let me give you the easy examples. In practice, what we do is first put a single 1 bit, then fill the remaining bits with zeros. This way, it is a unique pattern. So that person who decrypts it removes all of the zeros, then the first 1 bit, then says that the remaining part is the plaintext.